Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to Stik Angling. As you can tell by the title, we are going to do a full rod and reel arsenal just because, I don't know, it's gotten to the point where there's just too many rods and reels, but I do want to talk about all of them and let you guys know what I like to use and why I like to use them. So let's jump into it. Alright, and then the first one, it's going to be, might come as a surprise to a lot of you guys that know me, but it's going to be an ugly stick, man. Oh, I'm trying not to just hit the ceiling and everything. It's an ugly stick carbon. I'm trying to remember where I bought this. I think it was at Shields. Walked in, saw a red rod. I'm like, oh, that looks sexy. And as I got closer, saw the grips and realized it was an ugly stick. But it's got this like rubberized grip right here, almost like a wind grip. And then this portion looks like a hard plastic as you'd see it on any basic rod, but it's got that rubberized texture. And I believe this is a Fuji reel seat. I don't know if it says it somewhere on here. It says Fuji on it, but I absolutely love this rod. It's a medium heavy. It's rated for 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce, and the line rating is 12 to 20 pound line. So 7 foot medium, and it definitely feels like that. I like to use this rod for 3 things: buzz baits, frogs, and punch-in. So I know a lot of people think, why aren't you using a heavy or an extra heavy for punch-in? And honestly, I really just liked something that I could get enough force to set that hook, which this has plenty of backbone, but I wanted to have an absorption, because once you set that hook, you want to keep that hook pin as you're pulling them out. A lot of times with those broomsticks, either you rip it right out of their mouth, or there's just not enough flex in those flipping rods. They just turn into a broomstick. And this is a $70 rod, which I think they're on sale now for like 50 bucks. I would go buy another one, but I don't need to have 3 frog rods or 3 punching rods. And it just looks sexy. It's my only red rod and actually looks really sexy. But got that paired to a Shimano SLX with, this is what, 20 pound fluoro. I was just messing with it for spoons and stuff. I typically have 50 pound or 65 pound Power Pro braid on there for frogging and all that other stuff. So that is the first combo. All right, up next, and you guys are gonna probably see a trend on the reels and rods I like to use, but we're still gonna go through all of them. Up next, another very budget-friendly rod lineup is the Shimano SLX. These guys made it into my arsenal very early on in my fishing career, my fishing life, just because they were extremely affordable. I think American Legacy Fishing had a combo deal where if you buy the rod and reel, it was almost like 45% off. For the quality of it, I mean, that black and blue, I love that color scheme. That's the same color scheme I like on my logo and everything. Great reel, great workhorse reel. So this is a Shimano SLX DC, not the DC, sorry. This is Shimano SLX, just the regular SLX, but this is the XG, so an 8:1 gear ratio. This is actually my frogging rod. Well, let's see, this is the 7.5. So this made it really early on as my frog combo, just because when I was shore fishing or bank fishing, I wanted to try to get the longest cast I could with these frogs or these topwaters to, I mean, we were fishing ponds, so to the other sides where you couldn't fish because they were private property or whatever was fenced off. And I wanted to have enough backbone and length just to get my frog out there. Plenty of power as a heavy. I've got that spool to, I believe, 50 pound Power Pro braid for my frogging and topwater stuff, when I'm not really too concerned about how coarse the braid is and how smooth it is. If it's going to be going through the muck and really crazy cover, I usually just use the basic Power Pro that you find at Walmart or anything. It's cheap and it's strong. I don't care how smooth it is, if it loses its color. Its main goal is just strength, and that's it. Strength and cost. So great workhorse reel. They have the SVS Infinity system in them, so they're a little weird. So if you pull this side cap off, they have these little tabs that either you can pull and basically pull down, or you can actually lock them in place. I'll see if I can lock this one up here. So you push them up and lock it, and what that does is if you want more brakes, you'll pull those pedals down. If you want less brakes, you'll actually fold them up and lock them in. And I believe that has something to do with centrifugal force. Beyond that, I'm not the big person in the nitty gritty stuff. If the rod is sexy, or if I like it, or it's super comfortable, that's usually why I buy it. Or the warranty. It's another reason too. Cost is another thing. I wouldn't like to say that I'm brand specific, but I'll go into that why. I have a lot of Shimano rods and reels. All right, up next is another Shimano SLX. This one being a heavy as well, but in a 7-foot length. Now, as you'll see, I've got a swim bait tied here. I typically don't throw my swim baits on this rod. I only do it because my other rod was taken with an A-rig. But this rod can do it. It's a little bit fast for those swim baits. I like to have a little bit more give, especially when you're working with trebles. But this is a 7-foot heavy that's paired up with a Shimano SLX DC. So if you guys have ever used a DC reel, digital control, it's really cool. You guys want to look at it, go look at some other people's videos. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, but they're very forgiving. You can dial in baits pretty quickly on the go, or when wind comes in, stuff like that. It was a really fun reel to use when I first got into bait casters and whatnot. My first DC reel was a Curado DC. I remember saving up just to get that reel, and it was like my baby. It was like my Stella or like my Steez at that time, and I loved that thing. I would even take that reel and put it on other rods just because I wanted to use that reel. If I was going frogging, then I'd throw it on my frog rod and they'd try to put like braid on there or something, because I love that reel so much. But now we've got SLX DCs, you got Metanium, they've had Metanium DCs, stuff like that. And that's it for my other Shimano SLX combo. All right, moving on to the next one, we've got the Shimano Curado casting rod. This is a 7'5" extra heavy. I've got that paired up to a Shimano Curado DC 200 series or size. The reason why is I'm using a little bit bigger line, so I still want all that capacity and casting distance along with a little bit better or stronger drag. I absolutely love this rod for A-rigs, swim baits. I'm trying to think what else I've ever used it for. You could definitely get into some heavy punching if you wanted. I don't have that here in Colorado, so if you're in Florida, it might be a good rod for that. But Alabama rigs, umbrella rigs, and swim baits. I'll throw KGBs on here. I wouldn't throw your toxic like weight hogs or anything like that. Anything those like 4 or 5 ounce or plus ones, which I have another rod for that. I'll show you guys here shortly. But great rod, great price point. You don't have to break the bank. You know, I'm not gonna buy an NRX for an Alabama rig. All right, I'm not buying an NRX for a swim bait. But great rod for that. Actually, I've been using this rod a ton. We've been killing it on A-rigs and swim baits. So love that rod for that. Still a budget-friendly combo with the Curado DC. You could switch this out for an SLX or even a Daiwa Tatula and still be, you know, within that $200 price point right there. And we're just gonna start moving up this Shimano ladder and go right over to the Expride. If you haven't heard of the Expride, you probably live under a rock, because it is probably the best bang for buck and, in my opinion, high-end rod and reel combo that you could go, with. This one in particular is the Shimano Expride. This is a 7-foot medium glass rod, because I like to throw crankbaits. So it's actually not a 100% glass rod, it's a composite rod, so you still get that sensitivity in there, and you could tell when you're hitting the bottom with the composite rods, you can tell what it is, what compound it's made of, right? If I'm hitting rocks, is it pea gravel, is it grass, is it, you know, log or timber, whatever it is. That's why I really like these ones. It's still got plenty of absorption. Look at that, this is like barely any force. Plenty of absorption. But that vibration and that, you know, that slight ticking, you're gonna feel that through the complete rod. The Expride is absolutely beautiful. It's got this carbon handle to a cork and that CF4 reel seat. Love these reel seats. Very comfortable, very sensitive. Have that paired up to Shimano SLX. I think it's a 70 MGL, so a little bit smaller size for these lighter crankbaits. Really smooth reel, easy to dial in, just like all the other SLXs. Super sexy, I love this combo. Trying to do a little bit more cranking this year. Ooh, we're jumping into some of my favorite rods. This one, a little bit more bougie. This is the Shimano Expride 610 medium. So this rod is highly praised at being the jerkbait rod, and I would have to completely agree. Throwing jerkbaits on a lot of different rods, me being a little bit shorter guy, shorter stature, and fishing off a kayak, that 610 is still perfect. I would like something like maybe like even a 6.6 sometimes, but that 610, it still gives you plenty of casting distance without being too long and allowing you to have those nice, quick, erratic rod twitches. But this one is paired up with a Shimano Metanium DC, the new gen Metanium DC 70. So that 70 size, in my opinion, for me, is the perfect size. If all my reels could be 70s, they would probably be 70s. That new Metanium DC is really nice. I really like it. 70 size, I can throw those lighter jerk baits, so those Shimano's Invernos. What else? Even the shadow wrap shads from Rapala, some of the smaller ones, and still be okay with these guys. That 70 size helps with that. This is just such a sexy reel, man. I won't lie. Shimano Metanium. But yeah, 610 medium. The reason why I think they praise it so much is as the action's fast enough that you can get those rod twitches, but it's soft enough that you can keep those trebles pinned. And after catching enough walleye and smallmouth on these guys, and even some really big largies on a jerkbait, yeah, they're correct. Tactical Bassin was correct. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one, which is the exact same rod, but it's the first generation Expride. So you don't got this carbon handle, you've got some an EVA foam grip, split grip, and cork. And that's also paired up to a Shimano Metanium, the previous generation. I think it was this 2016. The Metanium DC was for a long time my go-to all-around reel for everything. This older Metanium DC just threw those smaller baits just fine, actually. That 70 does a little bit better job at that, but this one I've got braid to leader, so I usually like to throw these on 15-pound braid to a 10-pound leader, or 20-pound braid to a 10-pound leader. The previous one has 10-pound straight fluoro. So the reason why I do that is because that 10-pound straight fluoro is to get those little baits a little bit deeper, but when I'm working baits really fast, I like having that braid, and the braid also has a little bit better casting distance. I like to have the two. What I'll do is I'll have like a Vision 110 +1 or +2 on this rod, and then a regular junior or a regular Vision 110 on the other one. If I'm moving to from shallow to deeper water, I can make that change real quick, or if those fish are up really high in the water column, I can still change it up real quick versus having to, untie. I know a lot of people are gonna throw something else like mid-strolling, but the jerkbait, especially with forward-facing sonar nowadays, is just so hard to beat. All right, and this is gonna be the last of this, but another Expride. I know, it's a great bang for buck rod and reel. This one, I believe, is a 7-foot. I don't even remember these. I just know that I love them, and I don't have this all stored in my head. 7-foot heavy, so fast action. This is more of my broomstick, flip-in, heavy cover, paired with a Shimano Croix right there. Good workhorse reel, nothing crazy. Honestly, probably could have got away with a Shimano SLX or a Daiwa Tatula. Any of those would have fitted just fine. I just wanted to try this guy out. There are little nuances to each of them, but really good workhorse reel, honestly. The drag on this one, on the Croix, I will say, is really good, really strong, especially for those super heavy cover, heavy duty pitch and flip and whatever stuff you're doing frogging. Great reel for that. Won't slip. Once that thing's tightened out, it does not slip. So yeah, another Expride. This is a heavy. I could use this to flip or frog. I wouldn't use this for buzz baits or anything, with trebles, big trebles like swim bits and stuff like that, even like mad draggers. I probably wouldn't steer to this rod just because it's just too fast of an action. But yeah, that's it for the Expride lineup. Let's start with like my first, I call it bougie rod. It's gonna be the Shimano Poison Adrina. So this was my first kind of equivalent to that Shimano Curado DC. I was eyeing it for about like a month, finally had enough money, bought it, and I treated this like my everything rod, especially when you're bank fishing. I usually brought like 3 rods, right? Topwater, a drop shot or a spinning rod, like a Senko rod, and then your medium heavy go-to rod. This was the rod. Through chatterbaits, spinner baits, swim baits, mag drafts, jigs, Texas rigs, you name it, everything on this rod. I believe this is a 7'3" or 7'2", 7'3" medium heavy. This one is, they say fast action, and I do believe that. So it has a little bit more give, let's say, but it's got that still fast action. I wouldn't say it's an extra fast by any means. I like throwing mag drafts on this rod, or even like little swim baits like this. Got this live, I was just messing with this, but got this live target perch I was gonna try out. Got that paired up to a Daiwa Tatula, I believe that's Tatula CT. Another great workhorse reel for the price. I believe this one was 120 or so. Really clean, sexy looking reel on this. I know, what are you doing putting a Daiwa reel on a Shimano rod? You know, guys, like I said, I don't care about the brand. As much as people are gonna say you only like using NRX rods or Shimano rod, that is not true, as you're gonna see here. This one was a great, I don't use it as much now, unfortunately, because I've been a little bit more dialed into specific techniques and actions, and but this one, there's a lot of memories with this rod for sure. Recently added to my arsenal in the last year was another Shimano Poison. What a surprise! Shimano Poison Adrina. Before we jump into this one, I did have a Poison Ultima. The Shimano Poison Ultima felt almost identical to the Poison Adrina. So the Ultima is like this crazy $879 rod, very, very sexy, detail, everything, using really premium components. I think those were Torzite guides, titanium Torzite guides, full carbon handle similar to this. I just didn't feel like for the money I got anything out of it that was not this. It was exactly, I mean, the action and everything was exactly like this, and it was such a nice rod. I didn't even want to get it scratched up, so I ended up selling it. But yes, here is another Shimano Poison Adrina. This is actually a 7-foot or 7'3", 7'2". Gosh, I am terrible at remember these things. I'm sorry, guys. 7'2", medium heavy glass. This is why I love it, because it has plenty of flex for your chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, stuff like that, but you'll keep them pinned, right? And then it still has all the sensitivity, so you can feel the vibration. So as soon as it stops, as soon as you hit something, you can feel that throughout the whole rod. And I've got that paired to my all-time favorite, and it can be on every single one of my casting rods, and I would be happy, is a Shimano Metanium. Right there, I think it's the new gen Metanium, the newest gen regular non-DC Metanium. And oh dude, this is, I throw this my chatterbaits and stuff on a 7:1 gear ratio, 7.1:1 gear ratio. That perfect medium, not too slow, not too fast. You can speed up if you want, you can slow down if you want, and you don't have to make much effort to do so. That Metanium, dude, that is like the smoothest workhorse, lightest workhorse reel I've ever used. That is my favorite reel and one of my favorite rods. I've caught so many fish on a chatterbait, but yeah, that is it for my chatterbait combo right there. Well, we're gonna jump into a little bit outside Shimano world stuff, and we're gonna go to probably my favorite rods in terms of just the looks and how sexy it is, and that's gonna be a Shimano. Did I just say freaking Shimano? That's a Megabass. That's a freaking Megabass. Don't you dare mix that up with a Shimano. It's a Megabass P Destroyer P5. This is the X-Bites. So what caught my eye about this one? Actually, I think I was in Minnesota when I first, held one of these. It's a very fast action, so I'd say it's like an extra fast. It's a medium heavy, but the tip is like extremely thin and extremely light, which might be the reason why some of them break and people have broken them. But the tip section is extremely thin, right? So don't break it, don't be an idiot. But what that does is it allows you to feel everything and anything, like including the bites, the bottom, everything. Very, very, very light rod. I've got that paired to probably my second favorite. Behind the MGL, the Shimano Metanium MGL, is a $700 Daiwa Steez CTSV70. I don't know who at Daiwa makes these names, but they need to shorten those names. I've got that paired up to, I believe it's Daiwa J-Breed Grand 30 pound to 14 pound, 12 pound Sunline FC Sniper. And this is my go-to Texas rig rod or smaller jig rod. So like compact footballs or anything up to 3/8 ounce. You could throw a half on here, but let's say it's a little bit heavy for this rod. This rod, I used to throw dark sleepers on, jigs, stuff like that. Very light in the hand. Very, very sexy components. I mean, just from the screw cap to the handle, everything. I mean, all the wraps, everything are straight. Their attention to detail is wild. Out of this world. That is the Daiwa Steez CTS V70 paired up to a Megabass Destroyer P5 X Bites. And then the last, unfortunately, of my Megabass arsenal, which I want to get some more Megabasses because those rods are just sick. But this is going to be an Orochi SLX. This is the Launcher, which is a 711 XXG. I think it's whatever it is. It's a extra heavy is what they rate it as, but it's I think it's a glass rod or a composite rod. But I like this for deep cranks, and I'm talking deep cranks. I'm talking about 25 to 40 feet cranks. Yes, they make 40-foot cranks. I actually got one right over here as I make a mess, just to show you guys this. But oh, not even in there. DRT police, this thing will go down to 40, if not more. Yes, you're gonna need some casting distance, but that's why it's a 711 Orochi SLX from Megabass. Super sexy, super, look at that. Look, it looks like a freaking rattlesnake skin. The one thing you will get from Megabass is quality build. Very nice. So the reason why I like this rod, it's a long rod, get those baits out there, can handle their big crank baits, and maybe even A-rigs. Great for A-rigs as well. Got that paired up to a Shimano Curado DC 100. I know, why did I using a 150? Why am I using a 150 size? Because that's what I had. Got that paired up to 25-pound Shimano Mastiff fluorocarbon, and honestly, it's been holding up really nicely. I actually really like it. I haven't caught a fish on this rod yet because I just got it last fall and I want to try it out some more. And the cool thing about it is when it comes in, especially because it's such a long rod, it's actually, you can take this off. Let me show you guys something. Whoa, I just broke it. Just kidding. No, it's actually, it comes like that so you can store easily. Pretty cool. Boom, like it never happened. And I've also upgraded the handle on here with a Gomex's handle to these with these cork knobs, these oversized. I think this is a 120 handle. Don't quote me on that. It's a 120. Great for cranking. If you're cranking, you definitely need a bigger handle because you will wear out your forearm and your wrist doing that. This rod's great. It's got a long, super long handle, as you can see as it goes here. So I usually just tuck that in here as I'm cranking. And on the kayak, it actually turns the kayak, so what I'll do is I'll point that rod directly to my crankbait and just slightly off, and I can still feel everything. Plenty of absorption with this, so you don't have to worry about using trebles and stuff. So plenty of absorption, as you can see. Up next is the glass Shimano, or not Shimano, I keep saying Shimano, this is what happens. I'm not paid, I promise. This is the St. Croix Mojo Bass glass rod. So this is my go-to at the time, I don't know, 2021. This was my cranking rod. Throwing that around rocky areas. Wasn't the greatest for grass, and that's when I bought the Expride. It's a real full-on 100% glass rod, so it's very, very soft. I mean, look at this. I don't know if you guys can see that, but very, very, very soft rod. So when you're using those smaller baits, smaller trebles, you don't have to worry about keeping those fish pinned, and you can really launch it with that soft tip. You can really launch those smaller baits. It's a great rod. Actually still will probably use this rod. I need to find a reel for here, so maybe like a Shimano SLX 70 or even like a BFS reel, something for those light crankbaits. Not too much to say about this other than it's a great rod, great price point, and St. Croix has some of the best warranties out there, so that's another thing I like about St. Croix. All right, and another St. Croix, not a Shimano, a St. Croix. This is the Bass X. I actually picked this one up walking into Jack's and just holding rods. So like I said, I don't just look for NRXs, although I do. But this is the 7'1" medium, and I use this for my topwater. So poppers, ploppers, twitch baits, walk the dog baits. Got that to 20-pound braid. I forgot what kind of braid's on here. I think it's Cast King braid. Got that on a Daiwa Tatula. I think it's a 100 is what they called it. If you guys don't know, this is like the SLX equivalent in the Daiwa world. I don't know what it is about this reel, but it just casts baits so freaking far and easily. It is such a freaking light combo, man. Twitching that thing all day, never got tired. And what I like about it is that it's got that backbone like really, so it's actually a really fast action, but the tip is so soft. Look at this, super soft tip, crazy soft. And then it starts like right here on that 4th or 5th guide. But I like that because you can really impart action on those baits, but you still have a little bit of give for those treble hooks, which I love. Very not breaking the bank at all with this combo. This is probably a $180 combo. All right, it's time. We finally have an NRX on the screen. I know, this one in particular is an NRX 843C MBR, so Megabass rod, 843C, so 84 inches, 3 power. So it's a medium heavy, 83 inches, meaning it's a 7 foot. This is the Megabass rod, so it's got a little bit different taper. You're not your really fast, extra fast jig and worm rods from a Shimano. You've got a little bit more parabolic bend there, as you can see that. So almost, I would say 2/3 up the rod is where the backbone starts coming in. And this rod, man, I think this is probably my favorite G Loomis rod. Now, just because I won a tournament on it and I've caught a ton of fish past fall, mid-winter on this rod, because throwing a spoon, man, don't sleep on the flutter spoon. That and a spinnerbait. Don't sleep on those spinnerbaits. This one's broken, obviously, but don't sleep on those spinnerbaits, man. And that is exactly what I like using this rod for. You can use it for a ton of stuff. You can use it for bigger jerkbaits, jig, Texas rigs, swim baits. Oh man, I mean, everything. This was like, you know, the Poison Adrina where I said it was my everything when I first started fishing, and I bought that. This is that everything right here. It's got enough give for bigger jerkbaits, treble hooks. You can crank on this rod. It's got the sensitivity, man. This is gonna be weird, I know, but I've got that paired up to a Daiwa Zillion. I know, what are you doing? Daiwa on a Shimano rod? Dude, Daiwa makes good reels, man. That's just part of it. It's got a really cool thing I like about this reel. It's got a clicking drag. So it sounds cool, but I just like knowing when the fish is pulling drag and if I need to tighten it or if it's not tight enough. This reel itself is actually really smooth, cast everything very well. I'm very comfortable with this, can make any adjustments, and I know exactly what it's gonna do. Great buy, the Daiwa Tatula Zillion. And man, I don't even know if there's anything else I need to say about this. Let's just jump into the next one. Up next, we've got, I'd say my second NRX I ever bought. One of my favorites is the NRX 853C JWR. So it's a jig and worm rod, 853, so 83 inches, 7'1", medium heavy. Same thing as the other one. You've got, you know, titanium SIC guides, 2 recoil guides, but this is a jig and worm rod. So you've got a split grip handle here, still cork, very light. Got it paired up to a Shimano Titanium DC. And obviously this is going to be my jig rod, my Texas rig rod, everything up to about a 3/4 ounce jig. Throw those heavier jigs and still get really good feel. It's not overpowering the rod. One of the most sensitive rods I've ever used for bottom contact dragging. I don't know what it is and why there was so much rave about it. When I got into bass fishing, everybody was always talking about NRX, NRX, NRX. And I looked at it and it's like, it's just a plain rod. It looks like just a cork with a regular handle, and you've got freaking recoil guides on it, man. Like, how many people use recoil guides on their rods, right? And I was very skeptical. Ended up buying one because I figured if I could sell it, if I needed to sell it, I could still sell it and get a good chunk of my change back. But I'm never selling this rod. This is by far the most sensitive rod I've ever used for bottom contact dragging. It's a fast action, almost like an extra fast action. That backbone starts about the 3rd guide. I don't know what else there is to say about it other than I freaking love it. That is my NRX 853C JWR, my go-to jig rod. Alright, and I think that's it for the casting, so we're gonna jump right into all the spinning reels and rods. Alright, the first combo is gonna be a rod that I catch a ton of fish on with the Senko. Used to be my Ned Rid rod. Throw it on Nico rigs, even smaller swim baits, even your BFS stuff, tiny poppers. That's gonna be a Shimano Zodius. No, we didn't have a Zodius in the lineup in the casting arsenal, but we've got a Shimano Zodius. This is a 7-foot medium light, and I've got that paired to a Shimano Xsense XR. This reel moves around on a few of my setups just based off of what I'm doing. It balances very well for For the price, it's really light. It looks sexy. That red and black looks really sexy. And I like throwing Senkos on there, man. Senkos, it's a short rod, so I can skip it. And it's got plenty, being a medium light, it's got plenty of give to absorb any head shakes, and usually you're setting the hook with a smaller hook, a Nico rig hook or a wacky hook, so you don't need too much backbone. Great for skipping docks. I love these reels. These are the Shimano SLX XR, and I've got that spooled up with Daiwa J braid Grand, that moss green, dark green. It's a 15-pound braid to 8-pound Sunlight FC Sniper fluorocarbon, but absolutely love it. All right, and then for all my mid-strolling fans out there, got another Shimano Expride. This is paired up with a Shimano X-Sense 3000 MHG, so regular Shimano X-Sense. A lot of good things are said about the X-Sense, and I will say I understand why now. They're light. It's probably, they call it the dark horse Stella. I've never had a Stella, but I would definitely imagine this is what it would be like in black. That's it. This is the Expride 610 medium, and it's the solid tip. So for all the people that know mid-strolling, a lot of times what you're doing is you're shaking that rod tip, and what it does to jig and a minnow is what they're usually mid-strolling with. It rolls like this going through the water. So as you guys will see, it's like a really soft tip, really soft. I mean, almost noodle tip, like your ice rods. And what that does, it helps you just impart that action a little bit easier. And still plenty of sensitivity on it. Great casting distance for being a 610. I'll use this up to everything up to about even a 3/8 ounce. Anything above that, even a 1/2 ounce is a little bit much. And I'm not really throwing 1/2 ounce for jig and minnow stuff. I'm thinking about getting the medium heavy version of this rod just for the little bit heavier stuff. But I've been extremely happy with this medium X-Pride from Shimano. In my opinion, one of the best mid-strolling rods out there just because of that tip. But yeah, that's my mid-strolling setup. All right, up next, we've got a G Loomis NRX. This is an NRX 822 DSR, and I know the text is upside down. I'm sorry, but I don't have that much space on this side of the room. 822 DSR, so it's a 6'10". Extra fast mag medium, so it's not really an extra fast. When I think extra fast, I'm thinking really stiff tip, but it's more soft, I would say, for being especially a medium. But the DSR is the drop shot rod, and this is the rod that got me into drop shotting. Absolutely fell in love with it for the longest time. Actually, it still holds my PB smallmouth, and actually in that same exact bait right there, that flatworm. Still holds my PB smallmouth, the 5.5 pound smallmouth, and extremely sensitive. What I like about this rod is it's soft enough to the point where it absorbs everything, like I say on all of my rods, but it still allows you to impart plenty of action on the worm or whatever you're throwing down there, and still gets you to feel whatever you're dragging it on, whether it's rock, mud, grass. You can still feel every little tick and vibration from that through the rod. And I've got it paired up to probably my favorite workhorse spinning reel. I could be happy with these spinning reels on all my rods. And that's the Shimano Vanford. This is a 2500. It's hard to beat a Shimano Vanford for the price. You could load up your full arsenal with them and still not break the bank, but you're gonna get extreme reliability, lightweight, extremely lightweight. I think this is lighter than the X-Sense was, and very, very smooth drag. Very smooth drag. I'm also throwing that on either 10 pound, so if I want to keep it really light, 10 pound Daiwa J braid Grand to 8 pound or 6 pound Sunline FC Sniper. Been very happy with these Shimano Vanfords. Before the Vanford, obviously the Stratic CI4 Plus. Those are still great reels. If I can get my hands on those CI4 Pluses, I'm definitely gonna try to. But the successor to the CI4 Plus is that Vanford, and I can see why now. But that's the drop shot setup. All right, up next we've got another NRX. This is an NRX Plus spinning rod, but this is the 821 NRR. So if you guys can guess what that stands for, it is Ned Rig rod, as you can see right there. It is a 610 as well, but this has a little bit different action. So it's a 610 just like the other one, but it's got a little bit faster tip, as you can see there. So it's not as parabolic as a bend. That backbone kicks in a lot sooner. but very light rod. Also got that paired to another Shimano Vanford 2500. You're gonna see that a lot. Usually throwing that on 10-pound braid to 6-pound leader, or even go to a 5-pound leader. When they're really clear water or those fish are really finicky, I'll go to that 5-pound. But great rod. All right, this is starting to be a trend. But we got another NRX spinning rod, NRX Plus. This is a 901 SJR. And this is what, so it's a 1, so it's like, they say it's a medium light, it's more like a light. This is my hair jig rod. I often like to use this rod for crappies. I've got a 6th Sense clobber minnow on there right now. But anything really light, small hair jigs, crappie style baits, what else, any light like BFS stuff you could throw on this rod, like really light BFS stuff. I've got that on one of my favorite reels. This is the Shimano Stratic CI4 Plus. For the longest time, this was like the go-to reel. I've had this reel since 2020. Still holding up great, still smooth as ever. This rod is a 7'6", so it's the reason why I got that one is because you can make those long bomb casts with those light, tiny baits, and you still get that sensitivity. Definitely more parabolic bend in this rod, being an SJR, a spin jig rod. So very, very parabolic bend. Love using this for panfish, perch, walleye even. Perfect for casting those light, small baits like that. The funny thing is, this setup right here, and even that bait, holds my PB for bass. Yeah, just jigging in some trees, and she got the job done. So that's my hair jig, crappie, whatever small bait stuff right there, 7'6", medium light NRX. All right, if you guys have stuck with me this long, thank you. We've got a couple more rods to go. Brought 2 of them up here. Got the NRX Plus, another spinning rod with a Shimano Vanford. You'll find that's like the go-to for me, as you guys can tell. I like using this rod. So this is an 872S JWR. This is a 7'3" medium JWR rod, so meaning it's a lot faster tip. It's more of like your extra fast tip. And I like using that for mid-strolling. This was actually the rod I started mid-strolling with. Still great. This is what I like to use for the heavier mid-strolling bait. What I also like to throw in this rod before I was using it for mid-strolling is shaky heads, dragon like tubes, so those like 2.5, 3-inch tubes on the bottom. What else did I like to throw with these? Smaller swim baits, anything from 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce. Throw it on this rod, really liked it. That extra length, you can cast far with it, but it's a faster action. It's got a little bit more backbone than your SJR rods, spin jig rods. But I've been currently using it for mid-strolling, which this will probably go to a tube or something next weekend. But another great setup there. And then we've got a rod that actually, for whatever reason, I don't use that much. I don't know if it's the length or just the action that I don't have like a niche for it. I'm sure I will use it in a very specific situation, and I'll tell you guys that here in a sec. Does not have a reel on it. This is a Shimano Conquest. This is the 902S, so it's a 7'6", medium power, but it's an SJR, so it's a very flexible rod, very parabolic rod is the word. Titanium Torzite guides, so probably the top of the line guides. It's got all the Shimano and G Loomis technology, so the X-Wrap, Spiral X, High Power X, CI4 reel seat, all the bells and whistles. And the main reason I bought it was for swim baits. So like those 3-inch swim baits, 2.5-inch swim baits. When I was fishing in super clear water, there are some lakes here with really clear water with a giant smallmouth. You can make those, going down just the bank, you can go make those really, really long casts, and they're very spooky, they're very smart. And this was that rod for that. I haven't been able to do that much, but it makes for a great swim bait rod, even a hair jig rod if you're throwing a little bit heavier hair jigs, as in heavier as in like 1/4 ounce hair jigs, 3/8 ounce. It'll work for that. Even your light ones, it'll probably work for your light ones too. But being a medium, probably would opt for like a 1 power, like a medium light. But you definitely can still get the job done with this guy. Very, very light, like very light. I actually got this for like $200, and how? Gift cards, rebates, points, stuff like that. Well, if I was you guys, I'm not gonna say exactly where, but try to shop places where they have points, they have used rods. This actually was a used rod, and it was basically brand new. I mean, still had the clear wrap on it. If you guys can, try to buy these used. Don't really ever pay full price for the NRXs or Conquests or any rod. Try not to, man. There are some times where they don't have used rods because they just came out, like those solid tip Expride spinning rods, and it's the deal and you gotta have it. I get it. Try not to spend 600, 800, 500 on these rods. They're great rods, but I would much rather buy tackle and stuff like that. But here I am saying that with all these rods. I know, I'm a hypocrite. I'll go through 2 more rods here. The reason why I like using or have so many Shimanos and so many NRXs is because when you just stick to a certain brand or company, you can kind of already gauge what that rod is going to feel like or do before you even buy it. In Colorado here, we don't have a lot of mom and pop shops where they bring in really high-end rods and reels for you to go and check out. We have Shields here. It's probably one of the only places. Cabela's and Bass Pros don't really carry Megabass rods. They don't really carry NRXs. They don't really carry Dobbin Ecstasies and stuff like that. So, when I'm sticking to this, I like Shimano. I love, for the price point, what you're getting, the action of the rods. I typically like a faster action rods for a majority of things that I like to do, regardless on a scale of whatever it is. I'm usually in the faster action category for everything, right? I just like having the feel, like having the faster action. If I need to play fish, the angler in me will do that. But I like, staying to that Shimano brand just because I know exactly what a 1 power, a 2 power, a medium heavy, a medium light, regular or a fast or extra fast is gonna feel like before I even buy it. Don't get me wrong, I love my Megabass rods. I love my Dobbins rod, my St. Croix rods. I mean, I love all of them, man. There's just so many rods out there. It's hard to stick to one brand, and I don't stick to one brand because of loyalty. I stick to it because I just like it. I love how they look, how they feel. And if I wanted to fit a certain technique or niche in my arsenal, I already know what rod I'm gonna be looking for. But definitely, there's so many great rods out there. I do want to try some Phoenix rods. I want to try some Edge rods. I do need to still try some Gary Loomis Edge rods for sure. I do have 2 more rods. They might surprise you, but these are travel rods. Used to go up to visit my cousin up there in Minnesota, and I would fly on Southwest, and I could just bring these rods on, this little rod tube. I actually just carried it on. I counted as a carry-on item, so that was really cool. So it's a 3-piece rod, actually a really good rod. I caught a giant catfish, and I'll show you guys here.
I'm on. Oh, it's a good fish, dude. Yeah, it's a good fish. It's a good fish. Really good fish. Really good fish. I think it's a catfish again, dude. It's alright.
Held up great on a jerkbait too. It is very stiff, I will say that. It's like an extra fast action. Actually really clean. And an overall great feeling rod. You can get it lined up well. It's a very fast action rod for sure.
Nice.
You can almost even frog with this rod. It's very stiff, got a ton of power. So that when they're saying medium heavy, they definitely mean it. But I'd still consider this to be that, medium heavy range. All right, and last but not least, another travel rod, but this is a Abu Garcia, the Ike edition spinning rod. So it comes in this little case. It's got room for your reel and stuff. I never put the reel in there, but you could. And you're good. But it comes in 3 pieces like that. Honestly, travel rods are some of the most underrated freaking rods out there. Because you can throw them in your car. I mean, they're cheap. You throw them in the car, and if you don't have the room, you can just assemble it super quick, throw the reel on, look, boom, done. Just throw the reel on, put the line through, tie up your jig, and you're good to go. That's super sexy. Like, really, look at that color. It's got that color shift. It's a purple, and then it goes green. Like if you get the angle just, oh my god, it's a really sexy rod, I won't lie. This would also go with me every time I go to Minnesota to fish with my cousin. And actually comes with 2 tips. It comes like a medium light tip and a medium tip, so you can mess with that. Use that medium tip for like smaller tubes and stuff like that. Or if I wanted to throw a Senko or drop shot, go to that medium light tip. That was a really cool thing. They actually put some time and effort into this rod. Not that Abu Garcia doesn't, but just like the details. Like, look, never give up. And this is my one and only Abu Garcia rod, and I'm quite impressed. I do want to try the Megabass Triza, but I just don't travel for fishing as much anymore on the plains and stuff like that. All right, so that's gonna do it for my rod and reel arsenal. That is everything. Got some other rods that aren't even worth really talking about because I don't even use them and didn't even like them. But yeah, if you guys stuck with me this long, you guys are either tackle junkies, rod, reel junkies, whatever, or you guys either have nothing to do with your lives or you guys just love me, one or the other. You guys are probably gonna hate me after this video, but we're gonna start doing some fishing videos here soon. We got a tournament coming up on Chatfield. Real excited for that one. Not really. I am still excited. It's just been kind of tough, and it's been a place that I've always done bad at. Best finish I had there was 11th, catching tiny smallmouth about like 14 inches. So we're hopefully trying to change that this time, and it's a place I need to figure out. And this is the kind of places that will make you a better angler. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys then.